Hey, how's it going? So I've been practicing pretty intensely. I just got back from a pretty big trip, so I've been in the shed working really hard on the mandolin mostly, but also some bass. And today I ran into kind of a struggle. I really wanted to practice a certain concept, but I found it a little bit not very engaging. I found it a little bit boring. It's kind of a simple exercise. I just wanted to basically play through triads all over the neck, really kind of get to know the geometry of the mandolin fretboard. Not something that's like particularly engaging to just kind of run dry arpeggios up and down, trying to reinforce it. But I was reminded of something that I read in this amazing book. It's called 101 Bass Tips. It's a book by Gary Willis, one of the greatest bass players of all time, one of my heroes. And it's in this funny book that like they sold at Guitar Center, kind of like with the rest of the beginner books. You would never really notice this book. It doesn't really look like anything, but somebody got it for me for Christmas when I was like 13 or something. And it's actually one of the best books that I've ever read. I learned more about being a bass player from this book maybe than any other book that I've ever read. It's killing. And I was reminded of this one thing, and I was just thumbing through trying to find it, and it's this one, number 13 of the 101 Bass Tips, Mental Games. And what he says, sometimes it happens. You're on a gig, it might even pay well, but you're bored out of your mind. It's time to get busy. Try playing a tune with only your first finger in your left hand, or only 2, 3, or 4. Try playing a tune without using your first finger in the left hand, just 2, 3, and 4. Play the chorus using only one string, or play the tune using only your second and third fingers on your right hand. These two. Just because the music isn't challenging doesn't mean you can't improve. Just because the music isn't challenging doesn't mean you can't improve. So this concept I have always really taken to heart. I've played gigs where I've just played the entire gig walking with like my ring finger, or walking with just my middle finger, or walking with just these two fingers in my left hand, because the music isn't engaging. It isn't an opportunity to really connect with other musicians. It's just not happening, as he says. The same thing has always been true for the practice room. So for example, I'll show you what I did to kind of make this exercise a little bit more interesting. It's really simple, but I think it's something that if you incorporate into your practice, it can be really, really useful. So the exercise was like this. And then nothing too crazy, but I've just been working on these arpeggios, really trying to figure out different ways that I can navigate the fretboard. So one thing that I did to make it more interesting is it's really simple, but it's really powerful. I played the entire thing using just upstrokes. And I'm doing something that I'm trying to reinforce the fretboard, but I'm also using it to do another thing, which is to work on my upstrokes. I don't want to divide myself too much, because then I'm not really working on any one thing. I'm spread too thin. But this is like a perfect example where I can just kind of, focus most of my attention on the geometry, as I said, and get a little bit more mileage out of it by combining it with all upstrokes, something that I also need to work on. So kind of like this. So you see, my main goal is to really just try to get comfortable moving around that triad, but by using only upstrokes, it keeps this hand from just kind of doing what it normally does. It gives it a little bit of a challenge. Things like that, they really go a long way. I'm a big believer in focus and like focusing on one thing, but if you can combine one exercise with another exercise, or like one thing that's pretty hard with one thing that's not that hard, I think you can get a lot more leverage out of your practice time. So anyway, a really simple tip brought to you by the great Gary Willis, all the way from the electric bass to the mandolin to whatever instrument you play. Hope it's useful. See you in the next one. Peace.